The clinking of champagne glasses and strained laughter echoed through the sleek corporate event space as my stepsister Emma held court, regaling everyone with tales of her latest investment banking triumph. I stood in a corner, gripping my phone like a shield, watching my family's faces light up with practiced admiration. My name is Sarah, and I was about to endure another evening of being the family's creative black sheep. Then our team closed the eight-figure deal, Emma declared, her designer dress catching the light as she gestured dramatically. The youngest little VP in the firm's history, they're saying. That's our girl. Robert, my stepfather, beamed, while Catherine, my stepmother, dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. My stepbrother Daniel jumped in next, his custom suit radiating corporate success. Speaking of good news, our tech division just secured a major government contract. They're putting me in charge of the entire digital transformation project. More clinking glasses, more proud tears from Catherine. I took another sip of champagne and tried to make myself invisible among the crowd of banking and tech executives. But Lily, my younger stepsister, had other plans. What about you, Sarah? Her voice carried across the room, dripping with false sweetness. How's your little, what do you call it, social media stuff? The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned to me, filled with varying degrees of pity and barely concealed amusement. It's a creative agency, I corrected, straightening my spine. And we just launched a new campaign that's trending across. Oh, honey, Catherine interrupted, her voice syrupy with condescension. Don't you think it's time to look for a real position? I know Robert's advertising firm has some excellent junior copywriter openings. My agency is real, I said, but my voice came out smaller than I intended, lost in the vast expanse of the corporate event space. Emma snorted elegantly into her crystal flute. Come on, Sarah. Making social media posts from your renovated loft isn't exactly in the same league as investment banking or tech development. At the celebration party, continued, it's not just social media posts. I protested, my phone screen lighting up with another notification from our latest viral campaign. We're creating integrated marketing strategies. Our latest campaign reached. Reached what? Daniel chuckled, adjusting his Apple Watch. A few thousand likes? I manage billion-dollar tech portfolios, Sarah. The laughter that followed felt like digital daggers in my skin. I excused myself, pretending I needed to check some analytics, my heels clicking against the marble floor as I retreated to a quieter corner of the venue. As I stood there, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, fragments of conversation drifted over from the main group. I just worry about her, Catherine's voice carried across the space. All her peers are building real careers in established companies, and she's playing around with these internet trends. She'll grow out of it, Robert replied, his CEO confidence never wavering. Remember her photography phase in college? At least this keeps her busy while she figures out what she really wants to do with her life. I closed my eyes, letting their words fuel something deep inside me. They had no idea about the pitch meetings I was winning, the viral campaigns I was creating, the strategic partnerships I was building with Maya, my best friend since high school. My phone buzzed with a message from Maya. Client meeting tomorrow at 9. The big tech company you mentioned. You ready to blow their minds? Wouldn't miss it, I typed back, a small smile forming despite everything. Stepdaddy's promotion party going exactly as expected. Hang in there, creative genius. Show them what viral really means someday. I took a deep breath and walked back into the main space, where Lily was now sharing news about her latest startup funding round. Series A secured, she announced proudly. Youngest female founder in the investor's portfolio. Now that's how you disrupt an industry, Robert declared, shooting me a pointed look that said everything about his definition of success. At the celebration party continued, I sat there for another hour, enduring more subtle jabs and dismissive comments about my little social media hobby. Each word, each laugh, each pitying glance, I recorded them all on my phone, saving them in a folder labeled Motivation. The evening finally wound down, and Emma caught me by the elevator. "You know we just want what's best for you, right?" she said, her manicured hand patting my arm condescendingly. "There's no shame in admitting when something isn't working out. I'm sure I could put in a word at one of our client banks." I looked her straight in the eye. "You're right, Emma. There isn't any shame in admitting failure." But I wasn't talking about my agency. Later that night, in my loft apartment, a converted industrial space that they all deemed charmingly bohemian, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The campaign metrics I'd been working on glowed on the screen. My latest creative strategies were pinned to the wall, along with market research and competitor analysis. A notification popped up. Another major brand wanting to collaborate, the 15th this month. I thought about my family's laughter, their dismissal, their certainty that I was wasting my time. Then I thought about tomorrow's pitch meeting, the growing client list they knew nothing about, and the expansion plans taking shape in my mind. Playing with internet trends, I muttered, opening my analytics dashboard. "We'll see about that." I worked until dawn, fueled by determination and spite in equal measure. They wanted me to give up and get a real job at Robert's firm? Fine. I'd give them something real, something so real it would make their corporate success look like a LinkedIn humble brag. They just didn't know it yet. 3 years later, at the creative agency office, 3 years had passed since that promotion party, and I was staring at numbers that made my hands shake. Maya burst through my office door, her laptop clutched to her chest, her eyes wild with excitement. "Sarah, have you seen the engagement metrics? Our campaign just hit 8 figures in reach. We're trending globally." I spun my MacBook around to show her the screen I'd been staring at for the last 20 minutes. "Keep thinking it's a glitch in the analytics." "No glitch. Creative genius." Maya perched on my desk, grinning. That influencer integration strategy was pure gold. The authenticity campaign is exploding across every platform. I pulled up our digital metrics dashboard, millions of shares, comments flooding in from around the world, and our website traffic had increased tenfold. Remember when we were brainstorming campaigns in my living room? Now look at us. Maya gestured around our sleek downtown office, the wall of screens displaying real-time campaign metrics, 3 floors of creative teams, a global client list. My phone buzzed, another email notification. "Holy," I whispered, reading the subject line. "Maya, look at this." She leaned over my shoulder. "Adweek wants to feature your agency in their innovation issue." "Sarah, this is massive." I could barely breathe. Adweek was the Bible of the advertising industry. and their innovation issue was legendary. "Call Marcus," I managed to say. "We need his insight before we respond." Maya was already dialing. "On it." "Also, your stepsister Emma called earlier, said she's been trying to reach you." My excitement dimmed slightly. I hadn't spoken to my family in months, not since last Christmas, when Catherine had suggested I learn about real marketing from Robert's firm. "Let it go to voicemail," I said, turning back to the email. "We have bigger campaigns to launch." Next morning, at the office. The next morning, Marcus arrived at our office, impeccable as always in his Tom Ford suit. He'd been mentoring me since I met him at a digital marketing conference 2 years ago, shortly after he left his position as creative director at one of the world's largest agencies. "So," he said, settling into an Eames chair, Adweek, "this is what we've been building toward." "What's our strategy?" I asked, notebook ready. "They're offering a 4-page spread," Marcus said, reviewing the email. "We counter with 6 plus digital content. Your story is compelling. Young creative disrupting traditional advertising. Data-driven authenticity. Gen Z whisperer. They'll bite." Maya burst in again, this time looking concerned. "Sarah, Emma's here." In the lobby. My stomach dropped. "What? Why? Should I tell her you're in a strategy session?" I glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "No, send her up. Time to show her what playing with social media looks like." Emma's Louboutins clicked against our polished concrete floors as she entered, her investment banker perfection slightly marred by obvious surprise at our office space. "Wow," she said, looking around at the walls of awards and campaign metrics displays. "This is unexpected. What can I help you with, Emma?" I kept my voice professional, the way she always spoke to her banking clients. "I, have a major client presentation coming up. Someone mentioned your agency's viral campaigns, and I thought." She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. "Are you really the same agency everyone's talking about?" "The very same," Maya interjected smoothly. "We'd be happy to show you our latest metrics. The ones that are being featured in Adweek's innovation issue." Still at the office, Emma's eyes widened. "Adweek? But that's a real magazine." I couldn't resist. "For my real agency." Marcus cleared his throat. "Sarah, we should finish discussing the expansion plans, unless your sister would like to schedule a formal pitch meeting with our client success team." Emma flushed. Yes, actually. That would be helpful." After she left, Maya collapsed into laughter. "Did you see her face when she realized this wasn't just your little social media hobby?" "Focus," I said, but I was smiling. "We have work to do. The magazine shoot is in 3 weeks, and we need everything perfect." "About that," Marcus said, pulling out his iPad Pro. "They want to shoot here in the office. They're interested in the whole story, your journey from startup to digital empire." I looked around at what we'd built, the strategy boards, the creative studios, the teams of designers and content creators working beyond my office doors. Digital empire. The phrase felt strange, powerful. My phone buzzed again, a text from Catherine. "Emma told us about your office. Why didn't you say anything? We're your family." I showed it to Maya, who rolled her eyes. "Funny how they're interested now that you're disrupting the industry." "Very funny," I agreed, then turned to Marcus. About that magazine spread, I have an idea for the narrative angle. Something about transforming doubt into digital dominance. He smiled knowingly. Success is best served viral? Something like that. I turned back to my laptop, opening our global expansion strategy. Now, about those international office plans. Later that week, Marcus's office. You haven't returned their calls? Marcus asked, stirring his artisanal coffee as we sat in his corner office overlooking the city skyline. Any of them. 9 calls from Catherine, 15 texts from Lily, and 4 voicemails from Daniel, I said, scrolling through my phone. Oh, and Emma's been messaging our client services team daily about her presentation. Marcus leaned back in his chair. You know they'll keep pushing, especially with the Ad Week feature coming up. Let them push. I set my phone face down. I'm busy building a digital empire. An empire built on spite? His eyes twinkled. Not that I'm judging. Some of the best campaigns were built on proving people wrong. Speaking from experience, he nodded. My father wanted me to be a management consultant, called my first creative agency a waste of an Ivy League education. Now he shares every campaign I've ever touched on his Facebook. The intercom buzzed. His assistant's voice crackled through. Miss Sarah, your stepsister Emma is here. She says it's urgent. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I sighed. Send her up. Emma burst in, Hermes bag swinging. Finally. Do you know how hard it's been to reach you? I've been busy, I said, gesturing to the campaign mock-ups and strategy decks on Marcus's desk. You know, with my little internet hobby. Emma had the grace to look uncomfortable. About that. Look, Robert and Catherine feel terrible. We all do. We didn't understand what you were building at Marcus's office, continued. And now that it's trending, suddenly you're interested. I kept my voice level, professional, the way I'd learned to pitch to skeptical clients. That's not fair, she protested. We're family. We should celebrate each other's successes. Marcus cleared his throat. I'll give you 2 a moment. No need, I said, standing. Emma was just leaving. I have a strategy meeting with our international team in 20 minutes. Actually, Emma said, pulling out her phone, I wanted to show you something. Remember that Christmas when Catherine said you needed real marketing training? She played a video. There I was, trying to explain our content strategy while everyone scrolled through their phones. Catherine's voice cut through. Honey, real marketing needs real business experience. This isn't like running your college Instagram account. Why are you showing me this? My voice was digital ice. Because I recorded all our family gatherings that year for Robert's CEO appointment video. I have dozens of clips like this. And I wanted to say, I'm sorry. We were wrong. I stared at her, memories flooding back. You recorded everything, everything. Want copies? Something clicked in my mind. An idea began to form. Yes, actually. I'd love copies. After Emma left, Marcus returned. You okay? Better than okay. I pulled out my iPad. Remember when you said success is best served viral? I think I just found my content strategy. Careful, Sarah, he warned. Viral can backfire. This won't be viral. It'll be authentic, a lesson in digital karma. At the creative studio, my phone buzzed. Maya, Emergency at the studio. Need you ASAP. At the studio, I found Maya surrounded by storyboards and digital mock-ups. The magazine wants to know our inspiration for the next quarter's campaign. They're doing a whole piece on our creative philosophy. I picked up a sleek tablet displaying our latest designs. How about turning dismissal into digital dominance? Ooh, deep. I like it. She noticed my expression. What happened with Emma? I told her about the videos, about my plan. You're going to use their own content against them? Maya's eyes widened. That's brilliant. And terrifying. I love it. They want to be part of my success story. I scrolled through our campaign metrics on the wall display. They will be. Just not in the way they expect. Speaking of success, Maya said, pulling up our client dashboard. Emma's presentation pitch. She chose our premium package, and she's been posting about us on LinkedIn. I laughed. Of course she has. Probably trying to prove she always supported digital innovation. Daniel's tech division placed an inquiry too, and Lily's been sharing our case studies. Funny how that works. I walked to the window, watching the sunset paint the city skyline. You know what the worst part was? They never even asked what we were building. Never once sat down and really looked at our strategy. Well, Maya said, coming to stand beside me, they're looking now. They sure are. I turned back to the studio, to the empire we'd built from nothing but determination and digital savvy. And soon they'll see everything they never wanted to see. Planning the next move. The magazine shoot was in 2 weeks. The Q4 campaign launch right after. And now, thanks to Emma's videos, I had everything I needed to make sure my family finally understood exactly what their dismissal had created. Get me the digital team, I told Maya. We need to start planning the holiday campaign. I have some very special content in mind. Special content indeed, each piece carefully crafted, each one carrying a message. They wanted to be proud of me now. I'd give them something to be proud of. Something they'd never forget. The day the Adweek Innovation issue hit the stands, my phone exploded. 6 pages of glossy spreads. Our campaign splashed across every platform with a headline that read, "From Startup to Digital Empire, How Sarah Transformed Modern Advertising." Have you seen it? Maya burst into my office, magazine in hand. They used the quote. There it was in bold print. Success isn't just about going viral. It's about validating your vision. My phone buzzed again. Catherine, sweetheart, we just saw the magazine. Why didn't you tell us about the interview? We're so. I hit decline. Your Instagram followers just jumped by 100,000, Maya announced, checking our analytics dashboard. And oh my God, Sarah, look who just shared the article. On my screen was a LinkedIn post from Emma. So proud of my visionary stepsister. Always knew she was revolutionizing digital marketing. #family first, #proud sister. The audacity, Maya muttered. Screenshot that, I said. Add it to the campaign assets. At the office, later that day, my office door flew open again. Marcus strode in, another copy of Adweek tucked under his arm. The investors are ecstatic. The phone's been ringing non-stop with partnership inquiries. And look at this. Maya turned her tablet toward us. Daniel had just posted, "My stepsister's success proves that with family support, innovation knows no bounds." Hash proud brother, hashtag meets creative. Can you believe this? I couldn't help but laugh. Family support. Is that what they're calling it now? Miss Sarah, my assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your stepparents are here. The room fell silent. Should we tell them you're in a strategy meeting? Meyer asked. I stood up, smoothing my designer blazer. No. Let them come up. Catherine rushed in first, magazine clutched to her chest. Robert following close behind in his perfectly tailored suit. Darling, this is incredible. Why didn't you tell us about the photo shoot? Must have slipped my mind, I said coolly, between running my little internet hobby and getting some real marketing experience. Robert at least had the decency to look embarrassed. We may have been hasty in our judgment. Hasty? I picked up my tablet, pulling up our latest campaign metrics. Let's see what the article says. Despite initial skepticism from family and industry veterans alike, Sarah revolutionized digital marketing. Hasty seems like an understatement. At the office, confrontation. We're trying to apologize, Catherine said, her voice tight. We're here now, aren't we? Yes, now that there's something to share on your social media accounts. Marcus cleared his throat. I should check on those partnership proposals. No, stay, I said. After all, Marcus has been more family to me these past few years than… I let the sentence hang in the digitally optimized air. Catherine's eyes welled up. We're having a family dinner tonight. Everyone will be there. Please come. Let us make it up to you. I looked at Maya, who gave me a subtle nod. The timing was perfect. Fine, I said. I'll be there. After they left, Maya turned to me. You're really going? Of course. I opened my laptop, pulling up our holiday campaign designs. It's time to start phase 2. The content series? The content series. I clicked through the mock-ups, each one personalized, each one perfect. Marcus examined the campaign strategy. These are pointed. They're authentic, I corrected. And they're exactly what my family deserves. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. OMG sis. Just saw ad week. Can't wait to see you tonight. P.S. Any chance you could help with my startup's social strategy? Board meeting next week. Unbelievable, Maya muttered, reading over my shoulder. Actually, I said, it's perfect. Lily always did love viral content. Wait until she sees what I've designed, especially for her startup. Later that afternoon, the rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulatory calls and messages. Every time my family posted about my success, Maya dutifully archived it. Every proud declaration, every sudden claim of unwavering support. All raw material for what was coming. As I prepared to leave for dinner, Marcus caught my arm. Remember what I said about viral content backfiring. This isn't about going viral, I said, checking my reflection in my office window. This is a lesson in digital authenticity. Just be careful. Success is the best campaign, but peace is priceless. I picked up my designer laptop bag, another item featured prominently in the magazine spread. Peace comes after truth, Marcus. And tonight, we're serving truth with a side of metrics. Maya hugged me goodbye. Show them who you've become. Show them what they missed. I stepped into the elevator, the magazine tucked under my arm. My family wanted to celebrate my success? Fine. But first, they needed to acknowledge how we got here. and I had 6 perfectly crafted campaign concepts in production, just waiting to show them exactly that. The analytics dashboard on my phone kept lighting up with notifications as I drove to the restaurant. Each ping reminded me of every dismissive comment, every eye roll, every time they'd scrolled through their phones while I tried to explain my vision. Now they couldn't stop staring at their screens, watching my success story go viral. Karma, it seemed, had excellent engagement metrics. At the upscale restaurant, the private dining room looked exactly as expected. Robert's preferred high-end steakhouse, Catherine's impeccable taste in table settings, the obligatory corporate appropriate wine selection. Only this time, a copy of Adweek sat at my usual place setting. There she is. Lily bounded over, smartphone already in hand. The digital marketing genius herself. Daniel raised his wine glass. To Sarah's success. To success. They all echoed, the same voices that once mocked my internet obsession, now toasting it. Emma leaned forward. Tell us everything. How did you manage to keep all this so secret? Secret? I took a measured sip of wine. I've been posting about my agency's growth for years. You just weren't engaging with the content. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Catherine cleared her throat. Well, we're engaging now, darling. And we're so proud. Since when? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Since the Adweek feature? Since the engagement metrics? Since other people started validating what I've been building. That's not fair, Robert protested. We were just concerned about your future in this volatile digital space. My future? I pulled out my phone. Like when you said, and I quote from your own LinkedIn post, traditional marketing is the only sustainable career path. That kind of concern? At the restaurant, confrontation continues. Daniel shifted in his ergonomic dining chair. Come on, Sarah. That was years ago. 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days ago, actually. At the Christmas party, right after you called my digital strategy a passing fad. Lily's face paled. You remember all that? I remember everything. I looked each of them in the eye. Every dismissive comment, every time you scrolled through your phones when I tried to explain our analytics, every time you tagged me in posts about real marketing jobs. We made mistakes, Catherine said softly. We're trying to make it right, by claiming credit for my success, by backdating your support on LinkedIn, by suddenly becoming expert social media commentators. Emma had the grace to blush. I was just proud. Now you're proud. Now that there's something to repost. Now that your finance followers are asking about me. Now that you can add digital innovator to your family bio. The silence that followed was deafening. I have something for each of you, I said, my voice steady. Special content pieces from our holiday campaign. They'll be launching soon. Oh, how wonderful! Catherine brightened. Will they be featured on the trending page too? They're exclusive pieces. Custom made, you could say. They're inspired by authentic family moments. Robert raised his glass again. To authentic family content, then. If only they knew what kind of authenticity I had in mind. Still at the restaurant, the rest of dinner passed in a blur of forced conversations and careful questions. They wanted to know about viral metrics, about celebrity influencers, about engagement rates. Not once did anyone ask about the sleepless nights, the rejected pitches, the doubt I'd pushed through alone. As dessert was served, My phone buzzed. Maya, campaign assets are ready. Wait until you see how the video edits turned out. Everything okay? Lily asked, noticing my smile. Perfect, I replied, typing back. Save the growth hacking tutorial for Lily. Make sure the audio quality is crystal clear. So Emma, I said, about your presentation deck, it'll be ready next week, along with your special campaign feature. A feature already? Catherine beamed. But the holiday season is months away. Consider it a thank you for all the motivation you've given me over the years. Later, as I prepared to leave, Catherine caught me by the door. Sarah, wait. I know we weren't supportive before, but we really are proud now. That's the problem, Mom. You're proud now, when it's trending to be proud. What can we do to make it right? I looked at her, this woman who had dismissed my digital dreams for years, now desperate to claim a piece of my viral success. Just wait for your campaign features, I said. They'll explain everything. In my car, I called Maya. How's production coming along? The video edits are perfect. Each piece features the exact quotes we chose. Your family won't know what hit their feeds. Marcus thinks we're pushing the boundaries of ethical content, by the way. Back at the loft, I thought about dinner, about their selective memories, about how quickly they'd rewritten their digital history. No, I said. We're creating exactly the right kind of content. Back at my loft, I opened my laptop to review the campaign designs one final time. Each piece was meticulously crafted, professionally produced, and carried within it the weight of years of dismissal and doubt. For Emma, a viral LinkedIn series that would play back her mocking comments about my cute little website. For Daniel, a tech-focused case study embedded with his speech about real digital transformation. For Lily, that startup strategy guide she wanted, complete with her own voice belittling my business model. And for Robert and Catherine, matching thought leadership pieces that would remind them exactly how they'd failed to support their stepdaughter's vision. Beautiful content wrapped in truth. Let's see how proud they were after these went live. Are you absolutely sure about this? Marcus asked, examining one of the campaign previews in our production facility. Each one was packaged in our signature branding, topped with a custom animation that concealed a hidden audio track. Play the test version, I said, nodding to the LinkedIn series meant for Emma. He pressed play. Emma's voice filled the air. It's cute that you think your little social posts will pay the bills. Maybe stick to updating your Facebook status. At the production facility, crystal clear, Maya commented, checking analytics benchmarks on her tablet. The case study for Daniel is ready too. Want to preview it? I nodded. Another click, another recording. Real tech leaders transform industries, Sarah. What do you do? Post hashtags all day. The timing algorithms are perfect, our tech lead reported. They'll autoplay the moment the posts go live. No way to edit or delete until the full message plays through. And the quality? I asked. Broadcast grade. Your stepsister Emma did us a favor recording everything in high definition. Maya pulled up Lily's startup guide. This one's my favorite. The way she laughed when you showed her your first campaign metrics. The recording played. Oh my God, Sarah, you can't be serious. This isn't like your college blog. The real digital space doesn't work like that. And for your stepparents? Marcus raised an eyebrow. I opened the preview of their thought leadership series. 2 matching video features. elegant, and professional. Press play. Catherine's voice. Robert, we failed somewhere with Sarah. All that potential wasted on this social media fantasy. Robert's response. She'll learn the hard way. Sometimes children need to fail to understand their limitations in this digital age. Marcus winced. Harsh. Reality often is, I said, closing the preview. Schedule them for tomorrow. Coordinated release. There's something else, Maya said, checking her phone. Lily just texted. They're planning a family retreat. Want us all to go to the beach house next month. She says, and I quote, now that Sarah's finally made it in tech, we should celebrate as a family. Still at the production facility. I laughed. Perfect timing. They'll have their content well before then. Miss Sarah, our production manager, approached with another preview. The video compilation is ready too. I opened it to find a masterfully edited montage preloaded with clips from various family gatherings. Every dismissive moment, every eye roll, every interrupted pitch, all carefully curated and enhanced for maximum impact. For our company story highlight, I explained. A little family retrospective. Sarah, Marcus said softly, viral revenge might feel good now, but this isn't about going viral. I cut him off. This is about accountability. They don't get to rewrite their digital history just because I proved them wrong. The next morning, I watched as the scheduling platform confirmed the posts were queued. Miss stood beside me at the analytics dashboard. All assets loaded, she said. Emma's series should go live first. Her professional network is most active during morning commute. Text me when they all start trending. I want to know exactly when each piece drops. Throughout the day, the notifications rolled in. 10:15 a.m., Emma's LinkedIn series goes live. 11:30 a.m., Daniel's case study hits the tech blogs. 1:45 p.m., Lily's startup guide releases. 3 o'clock, the thought leadership pieces launch. Now we wait, I said, reviewing the performance metrics. They'll probably call as soon as they see them, Maya predicted. Let them. I've had years of practice leaving messages unread. At the office late afternoon, Marcus stopped by as the engagement metrics were peaking. Last chance to pull the campaign. No, I showed him my screen. Emma had already posted about receiving a special shout-out from her innovative sister. If you're sure, he sighed. Just remember, once content goes viral, it can't be recalled. My phone buzzed again. Lily, OMG, just got the strategy guide. Can't wait to share it. Family beach retreat next month will be perfect for brainstorming. They really have no idea, do they? Maya marveled. They will, I said, watching the sunset reflect off neighboring glass towers. Soon enough. That evening, as I worked late finalizing our next quarter strategy, the first text arrived from Emma. Very creative with the audio integration. We need to talk. Then Daniel, what kind of narrative are you crafting? Lily, this isn't fair, Sarah. We were just being realistic. And finally, Catherine, please call immediately. This content strategy is cruel. I forwarded the messages to Maya. It begins. Her response came quickly. Want me to come over? Bring some artisanal coffee? No, I typed back. I want to savor these metrics alone. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my family was finally hearing their own voices played back to them. finally facing the reality of their digital footprint. The beach retreat was in 4 weeks, plenty of time for my campaign to reach full saturation. And the company story highlight. That would be my personal contribution to the family retreat. After all, what's a family gathering without some authentic content? At the Beach House Family Retreat, the beach house living room crackled with tension as my family stared at their phones displaying their respective content pieces. Outside, waves crashed against the shore, but inside, the only sound was the steady playback of their own voices through premium audio. "Take it down," Emma demanded, clutching her phone displaying her LinkedIn analytics. "This isn't strategic anymore." Strategic? I settled deeper into my ergonomic chair. "I don't remember discussing strategy when you said these things." Daniel minimized his case study on his tablet. "We get it, Sarah. You're a digital success now. You've made your point." "Have I?" I pulled out my laptop. "Because I brought our company story highlight, just in case the message wasn't clear enough." "Don't," Lily whispered, but I was already connecting to the smart TV. The screen flickered to life. There we were 3 Christmases ago, gathered around Robert's executive office. On screen, I tried to explain our engagement metrics while Daniel checked his email. Emma scrolled through Instagram, and Lily giggled behind her MacBook. Catherine stepped forward. "Turn it off, please." "We understand." "Do you?" I let the video play. "Because here's you, Catherine, telling your social circle that I was just going through a phase. And here's Robert explaining to his board members that I just needed to fail to learn my lesson." Robert's featured video autoplayed, making him wince. He closed his browser tab. "We were wrong," he said quietly. "Is that what you want to hear?" "Wrong about what, exactly? About my vision or about me?" At the beach house, confrontation continues. Emma stood up, investment banker mode activated. "This is manipulation, Sarah, using our digital footprint against us. Your words manipulated my career trajectory for years." I cut her off. "Made me doubt my vision, made me question my strategy. But guess what? I saved every post, every comment, every mockery, and now they're premium content." Lily burst into tears. "I was sharing that startup guide yesterday at my board meeting. Did everyone hear what I said about your early campaigns? No, that audio only plays when you access the premium features. But isn't it interesting that you're more concerned about your board hearing what you said than the fact that you said it?" Catherine sank onto the designer sofa. "We were trying to protect you. From what? Innovation? Success? Market disruption? From failure," she snapped. "From this unstable digital economy, from becoming exactly what I am now." I gestured around the luxury beach house they'd rented for this family celebration. Funny how that worked out. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. "Okay, we were wrong. We were judgmental and unsupportive. But this is calculated content strategy." "Calculated?" I laughed. "No, calculated was recording every family gathering just to mock me later, right, Emma?" She flinched. The TV switched to another clip, my step-parents' anniversary dinner, where they'd all scrolled through their phones during my announcement about our first major client partnership. "I watch these metrics a lot," I said, "especially the part where Lily asks if I'll ever do anything meaningful in the digital space." At the beach house final confrontation. Lily's designer dress rustled as she shifted uncomfortably. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You all did. Every post, every share, every dismissive comment, you meant it all. And now? Robert asked, his CEO persona cracking. What do you want now? I stood up, walking to the window. The ocean stretched endless and dark beyond the glass, my reflection overlaid on the waves. I want you to sit with it. Really sit with it. Watch your own content. Listen to your own voices. Feel what I felt every family gathering, every holiday, every dinner. For how long? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. How long did you spend tearing down my vision? How many years did you waste doubting me instead of supporting me? Catherine started to speak, but her thought leadership video autoplayed again, her voice echoing. Sometimes I'm embarrassed to tell people what Sarah does in social media. Still embarrassed, Catherine? The silence stretched thick and heavy. Finally, Daniel spoke. The content. It won't stop trending, will it? The algorithms are set to resurface regularly, just like your comments used to come randomly whenever you felt like taking a shot at my dreams. This is ruthless, Emma muttered. No, this is authenticity wrapped in premium digital strategy. I picked up my laptop bag, our latest design, featured in last month's magazine spread. I have a global strategy meeting tomorrow with potential investors. Don't wait up. At the beach house, the departure. Sarah, wait. Catherine called out. Please stay. We need to discuss this. I turned at the door. Discuss? Now you want to engage? After years of scrolling past my content, the TV switched to another clip. Last Thanksgiving, my whole family laughing at my plans for international expansion. Listen to yourselves, I said. Really listen. Then maybe we can collaborate. As I walked out, their recorded voices followed me, echoing through the beach house like digital ghosts of engagement past. Behind me, I heard Lily start to cry again, Emma trying to delete her LinkedIn posts, Robert and Catherine arguing about their thought leadership series. But for the first time in years, I wasn't the one feeling invisible. I wasn't the one being unfollowed. Sometimes karma doesn't just go viral. Sometimes you have to curate it yourself. The next morning, at the beach, the sunrise painted the beach in gold when Catherine found me sitting by the water. She held 2 cups of artisanal coffee, her thought leadership piece noticeably archived. Your father finally figured out how to privatize the content, she said, handing me a cup. Though I suppose we deserved every view. Sit, I said, patting the sand beside me. She lowered herself carefully, her designer resort were ill-suited for beach sitting. I couldn't sleep last night. Kept hearing my own voice over and over, not just from the videos, but in my head. Welcome to my algorithm. At the beach, morning conversation. I was awful, wasn't I? You all were. The waves crashed steadily, filling our silence. I found your old digital strategy deck, she said finally. The one you kept in high school. It was in Robert's study when I was organizing last month. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. You read it? Every slide. Your platform strategies, your content plans, your vision. They were all there, weren't they? Right in front of us. We just refused to engage. My phone buzzed. Maya checking in. I ignored it. You know what really hurt? I asked. Not the mockery or the dismissal. It was that none of you ever asked. Not once. You never said, "Hey, Sarah, walk me through your analytics. Show me what you're building." Catherine's eyes welled up. We were so busy pushing our traditional marketing mindset, we never saw your digital innovation. Inside the beach house, I could see movement. Emma and Lily in the kitchen, Daniel and Robert on the deck, all of them stealing glances our way. The campaign, Catherine continued. It was cruel but necessary, wasn't it? I nodded. You needed to see yourselves. Really see yourselves. Emma hasn't stopped monitoring her notifications. Says she never realized how toxic she sounded. Lily's been up all night rewriting her startup pitch. Apparently, she'd included something condescending about disrupting traditional thinking. At the beach, the resolution. Despite everything, I laughed. And Daniel called his tech division, requested a digital culture workshop. Said he needed to reconcile with the future. The sun climbed higher, warming the morning air. I don't expect instant engagement, Catherine said quietly. But I hope we can build something new, something authentic. My phone buzzed again. Marcus this time. How's the impact metrics looking this morning? I typed back, more meaningful than expected. The beach house door opened. Robert stepped out, then Daniel, then my stepsisters. They walked toward us slowly, like approaching a trending topic they feared might go viral. I made breakfast, Emma said, her voice rough from a sleepless night. Real breakfast, not just coffee. We thought, Lily added, maybe we could talk. Actually talk. No recordings, no metrics, just talk. I looked at them, really looked at them. Their designer beachwear wrinkled from a sleepless night, their faces stripped of social media filters, their eyes heavy with recognition of their own digital footprint. One condition, I said, standing up. You each get 1 minute to speak, uninterrupted. Then I get my turn. They nodded. And after that, I pulled out my laptop from my bag. We create new content. Better content. At the beach house final scene, we don't deserve a second chance, Daniel said. No, I agreed. But I deserve authentic family support, and you deserve a chance to provide it. Back inside, over cooling artisanal pastries and fresh coffee, we talked. Really talked. Emma shared her insecurities about keeping up with digital transformation in finance. Daniel admitted he'd been jealous of my freedom to innovate. Lily confessed she'd been mimicking our parents' behavior, trying to earn their corporate approval. Robert and Catherine just listened, for once not checking their phones. When my turn came, I didn't mention the metrics or the success or the magazine. Instead, I talked about the young creative who used to draft campaign ideas in her notebook, who just wanted her family to believe in her vision. I don't need your validation anymore, I finished, but I'd like your understanding. Robert cleared his throat. Could we see your creative process sometime? Really see it. I'd like to understand how you built it all, Catherine added. If you're willing to share. I pulled out my phone, texted Maya. Cancel my strategy sessions today. Family stuff. Her reply was instant, finally letting them earn their authenticity badge. I looked around the table at my family's hopeful faces, at the archived content scattered across their devices, at the laptop waiting to capture new moments. No, I typed back. finally letting myself have the family I deserved all along. Then I put my phone away and turned to my family. So, who wants to hear about how I actually built my digital empire? Their eager responses tumbled over each other, but this time they weren't scrolling through their phones. This time they were ready to listen. And this time, I was ready to let them.
This kind of meal doesn't compare to fine French dining. My daughter started throwing the food I had prepared into the kitchen trash. We don't need simple meals like this. I'll clean it up for you. Compared to the meal we just had, this is garbage. Though I had been ridiculed for my lack of education, today's treatment was unbearable. I stormed out of the house and contacted a certain person. This would lead to the downfall of both my husband and my daughter's lives. My name is Anne. Due to family circumstances, I had to drop out of school and start working, eventually leaving the job I loved when I got married. The company that hired me despite my lack of education had been a comfort, but Tom, my husband whom I met through a friend, was possessive and forced me to quit, saying he would provide for us. Since then, I've been a housewife, living with our daughter Rosa and Tom. Rosa recently got into a prestigious school in the area. She is an excellent student aiming to become a lawyer, studying hard for law school. However, she has a problem. She's become arrogant, perhaps too proud of her academic achievements, and has a tendency to look down on others. I've repeatedly told her to stop being condescending, especially towards those she deems less intelligent, but she never listens. When I sought Tom's help, he didn't see her attitude as an issue. Tom is a manager at a company and rarely comes home. When he does, he dotes on Rosa instead of disciplining her. In contrast, we hardly talk as a couple. I've long told myself his work keeps him busy, but sometimes he comes home with the scent of perfume, constantly on his smartphone, making me suspect he's having an affair. As a housewife, I often feel my voice goes unheard in the household. You've been coming home late lately. Is work that busy? Huh? Work is always busy. Whatever you're suspecting, it's none of your business, Anne. When I casually asked, Tom's response was always dismissive and aggressive. If I confronted him about cheating, he'd likely just feign ignorance. Both Tom and Rosa have increasingly disregarded me since Rosa entered high school and became more obsessed with academic status. Rosa, could you help with the chores? I think I have a fever. I had been feeling unwell all morning. Despite trying to get through the daily tasks, my dizzy spells made it impossible. I asked her for help when she returned from school. Why should I do chores? It's your job, Mom. You're a housewife with nothing else to do, so at least keep up with the housework. With that, she went straight to her room upstairs. It seemed my poor health didn't matter to her. She used to be more considerate. Tom's influence had turned her into a selfish and arrogant person. While I tried to raise her to be self-reliant, Tom spoiled her endlessly. He gave her allowance without limits and bought her anything she wanted. Even when I warned that this would make her spoiled, Tom never stopped indulging her, insisting she should have whatever she wanted. And before I knew it, Rosa started to mock me. Tom, who graduated from a prestigious university, values education highly and has a lot of pride. It was clearly his influence. Mom, it's so embarrassing that you dropped out of college. All my friends' parents graduated from well-known universities. I can't even tell anyone about you. I might have dropped out, but I got a job and earned my own money. I'm not ashamed of that. Yeah, but it was probably at some small company where you didn't earn much. Looking at you really makes me realize how important education is. It's good you married Dad. Otherwise, you'd be living in poverty. It's terrible to talk like that. People who belittle others over education are the ones who are truly low level. I usually don't talk back much, but the harshness of her words made me react without thinking. Even if you talk back, it's not convincing at all. Yeah. Why are you so angry? It's the truth. If you were so upset, you should have at least graduated high school, Anne. Tom knows why I couldn't continue my education, yet he joins her in mocking me instead of scolding her. I also once aimed to become a doctor, studying hard for my dreams just like Rosa. I was good at studying, my grades were excellent, and people said it was a given that I would get into a top-tier school, even more competitive than hers. However, when I was in middle school, my father died suddenly in an accident. Losing the breadwinner, my mother became a single parent, and I had no choice but to give up on further education and drop out to work. I never intended to tell Rosa this, but it was clear she would call me a liar even if I did. She would surely mock me, calling it an excuse. Why did things turn out this way? We promised to build a modest but happy family when we got married. Now, far from happiness, I felt alienated in my own home. Contrary to their attitude towards me, the two of them got along well because they were so alike. They often went out together on purpose, leaving me behind. At first, I felt lonely, but recently, I've become numb to such treatment, feeling nothing. However, when I think about continuing a life where my family treats me like a housekeeper, I become very depressed. In addition to my relationship with Rosa and Tom, there was another person causing me headaches. That was my sister Betty. Maybe feeling lonely after losing our father, Betty left home after graduating middle school and started seeing multiple men. Even after becoming an adult, she continued such a lifestyle without holding a steady job, frequently coming to me to ask for money. Again. I sighed as I saw the unexpected visitor on the doorbell screen. I drank too much yesterday. Hey, give me some water. Betty, clearly drunk even in the middle of the day, sprawled out on my living room sofa. Despite being older than me, she looked sloppy and dressed too young for her age, being in her late 30s. Reeking of alcohol and strong perfume, Betty asked me for $500, saying she lost all her money gambling this month. Don't gamble if you're not working. But my boyfriend loves slots. When I'm with him, the money just disappears. I can't help it. Without any sign of remorse, she demanded money, and I reluctantly handed her an envelope with cash. Betty was the type of person who would go on a rampage if I didn't give her money, so this was the easiest way to deal with her. Once, I refused her demands because they were becoming too frequent, and an enraged Betty went on a destructive spree, breaking furniture and dishes until I agreed to pay her. Thanks. You really are the most dependable sister. And you've always been so convenient. I'll come by again when I'm in trouble, okay? Taking the money, Betty left, looking pleased with herself. As she said, I've always been used. Everyone around me knew that I wouldn't stand up for myself, so they all took advantage of me. Hey, did Betty come over again? Rosa, who must have passed Betty outside, asked with a look of disdain. Welcome back. Yeah, just a bit. I tried to gloss over it, but Rosa knew that Betty came over whenever she was in need of money. It was for money again, wasn't it? You know, you two are really alike. Both of you are so awful. The only decent people in this family are Dad and me. As usual, Rosa made her sarcastic remarks, and I didn't bother to respond. I knew that whatever I said would just come back at me tenfold. Tom, Rosa, and Betty were all sources of distress for me. Time passed, and Rosa, having studied hard, got into her dream college. Even though she often said hurtful things, she was still my precious daughter. I decided to celebrate by making her favorite dishes and ordering from a fancy steakhouse. I told Tom and Rosa that we'd celebrate at home with a special meal. But when the time came, neither of them returned home. The food on the table grew colder and colder. They finally came home late that night. "That was delicious." "Thanks, Dad." "It was a reward for all your hard work, Rosa." I splurged. "It was really great. Let's go again sometime." I heard them chatting happily at the door. "Oh, what's this?" "We've already eaten." Rosa walked into the living room and saw the meal I had prepared, then gave a mocking smile. It seemed they had gone out to eat without me. "Didn't I tell you?" Rosa and I went out for a celebratory French dinner. "You didn't tell me that. And I told both of you I was preparing a special meal for tonight." They smirked, clearly enjoying my reaction. "Maybe you forgot because you're so dumb, Mom. Obviously, high-end French cuisine is better than some ordinary steak." "You're really such an airhead," Rosa said, starting to throw the steak I had made into the kitchen trash. "What are you doing? It's a special day, and I don't want to see a gloomy face or some cheap meal." "I'll clean it up for you." "Rosa, that's too much." "But honestly, compared to what we had earlier, this stuff is trash. If you were going to prepare something, it should have been better." The food I had lovingly prepared, including Rosa's favorite dishes, mercilessly thrown away. "Why, I can't believe this. How can you do this? Do you hate me that much?" Everything I had been holding back poured out, and I couldn't help but raise my voice. "That's the attitude that's so annoying. Just because you're my mom, don't boss me around. You're a dropout and a low-level person." Whenever Rosa and I argued, she always said this. To Rosa, it didn't matter that I was her mother. Any opinion from someone she deemed less intelligent was worthless. "I wish I had a smarter, more respectable mom. I wish I could replace you with someone else." "That's a great idea. You can go ahead and replace me." Tom laughed at the idea. As I listened to their conversation, I realized that there was no place for me in this house anymore. "Fine. I can't live with you anymore after being treated like this. I'm leaving." With those words, I left the living room and went to my bedroom to start packing. "Why are you being so dramatic?" "I was just telling the truth." "Don't get so mad. We don't need her here anyway. If you're expecting us to beg you to stay, think again." They looked at me with smug expressions, not bothering to stop me. They clearly thought they'd be just fine without me. Once I finished packing, I turned to Rosa, who still had that infuriating look on her face. "Rosa, you may be smart and clever, but you lack any sense of empathy." "What? Are you, a dropout, trying to lecture me?" "What kind of tone is that?" Tom yelled at me, but I held her gaze and spoke firmly. "Do you really think someone who looks down on and mocks others can be a lawyer? I believe you're the last person who should ever become one." A lawyer is supposed to help those in need, to support the vulnerable. But Rosa had absorbed Tom's values, showing no hesitation in belittling and hurting others. No matter how intelligent she was, I couldn't see her as fit to be a lawyer. I had tried to correct her behavior over the years. But as she grew older, she began to boast about her intelligence, ignoring my pleas for kindness. With Tom indulging her, Rosa had become an irredeemably selfish person. "It seems I've failed as a part of this family, so I'll leave as you wish." "Don't worry. As Rosa suggested, I'll call the real mom and let her know to come here." I smiled at their shocked faces and walked out with my packed bags. I started walking towards my parents' house. On the way, I called someone. I told them to go to the house where Tom and Rosa were waiting. How does a dropout plan to live on her own? Tom still couldn't resist making snide remarks, showing no remorse as I left. Finally, I feel relieved. Rosa, on the other hand, was a bit shaken but tried to maintain a strong front. Despite all the times she had insulted me, she hadn't really expected me to leave. Dad, what did Mom mean by the real mom? What's going on? Well, that's... Tom stammered in response to Rosa's question. As the awkward silence stretched, the doorbell rang. Is it Mom? I bet she came back because she couldn't handle it, Rosa said as she headed to the door and opened it hastily. But it wasn't me standing there, it was my sister, Betty. With her unkempt hair and overwhelming perfume, Betty hugged a bewildered Rosa and said I could stay here from now on. Nice to meet you, Rosa. Rosa thought Betty's obnoxious grin looked disturbingly similar to her own. Betty walked in and made herself at home in the living room. Unable to stand it, Rosa called me. Mom, what's going on? Why is Betty coming to our house? Why? What a strange question. Didn't you say you wanted a different mom? So, I brought your real mom. My real mom? I explained everything to a confused Rosa. When Tom was in college, he got Betty, who was then in high school, pregnant. After giving birth to Rosa, the two were still students and had no financial means. So, Betty and my mother took care of the baby, but Betty soon abandoned Tom and Rosa and started dating other men. Later, the smooth-talking Tom tricked his sister, me, into marrying him. Since I couldn't have children, I adopted Rosa, who was still very young. No! That's a lie! It's all true. If you don't believe me, ask your dad and Betty. No! I can't believe this woman is my mom. Come back, Mom! Please! You wanted a different mom, right? Well, this is your real mom, Rosa. The three of you should live together happily. And with that, I hung up the phone. Later, I sent a letter explaining that I would never return home again, along with divorce papers to Tom. As expected, Tom, who had a mistress, agreed to the divorce, and we became strangers. Due to his promiscuous behavior, Tom and Betty didn't get along even after their breakup. Tom left Rosa behind and moved in with his mistress. He practically abandoned the household, only sending the minimum amount of money to cover living expenses. Betty tracked down Tom's apartment where he lived with his mistress and demanded proper financial support. When Tom refused, Betty caused a scene, leading to neighbors calling the police, and it turned into a minor scandal. Rumors spread, and Tom's affair became public knowledge. Given the strict compliance policies at his company, Tom was transferred to a regional branch. His income drastically decreased as he was demoted from an executive at headquarters to a regular employee. Unable to afford college tuition, Rosa had to get a part-time job. However, Rosa, who had never done a part-time job or even helped much at home, kept making mistakes at work and quickly switched jobs. As a result, she couldn't save enough for her tuition. She asked her high school friends for loans, but her arrogant attitude had alienated them, and they refused to help. In fact, rumors spread about her asking for money, and she became an outcast among her former classmates. Unbeknownst to Rosa, Tom had only been providing the bare minimum for household expenses. While we managed to get by, Betty wouldn't be able to handle such a situation. Mom, I might have to drop out of college. Help me. Talk to your real mom, Rosa. I'm just a stranger now. Don't call me Mom only when it's convenient for you. I had lost my patience with her, who had broken down and come crying to me, so I coldly told her off. After the divorce with Tom was finalized, I made him promise not to have any further contact with me in exchange for not demanding any alimony. I heard that Tom had continued his relationship with his mistress for a while, but after being demoted and experiencing a pay cut, he was unceremoniously dumped by her. With no other option, Tom returned to the house where Betty and Rosa lived, but apparently, Betty wasn't doing any housework at all, and sometimes even brought men home, living recklessly. When he tried to kick her out, she would go into a rage, and he found himself at a loss for what to do. Rosa, in the end, couldn't pay her tuition by the deadline and had to drop out of college. Now she's working as an office clerk at a small factory, but most of her salary is taken by Betty. I moved back to my parents' home while searching for a new job. With a gap in my resume and the fact that I dropped out of college, my job search wasn't going well. But one day, a former colleague from the company I used to work for, who had started his own business, reached out and asked if I would work for him. I happily accepted the offer and am now studying hard and working to fill the gap in my skills. I've always liked studying and am a quick learner. Recognizing my efforts, I've now been given a leadership position. In my previous life, I was looked down upon, mocked, and resigned myself to the belief that I couldn't do anything. But now, I realize that was wrong and that if you put in the effort, you can open up a brighter future. There's even someone who likes my forward-looking attitude, and we've been dating steadily. I sometimes regret that I didn't teach Rosa, who was once my daughter, the value of effort before it was too late. But she is an adult now. I hope that, through her experiences in this tough world, she will eventually realize her mistakes. I'm not setting a place for you at the wedding, so this is goodbye. Right after landing at the airport, Harper, my sister-in-law, said this with a triumphant laugh. Today was Harper's wedding day in South Korea. I had come all the way to Korea with my husband and in-laws, but Harper's words were directed solely at me. What do you mean by that? I asked, shaken, to which Harper replied bluntly, Why would I invite you to the ceremony? I didn't even book a hotel for you. Why don't you sleep outside or just go back home? My name is Ava. I'm 30 years old, and I've been married to Joseph, who is the same age, for a year. We met at a social drinking event after becoming working adults, hit it off, and soon started dating. We had our share of fights during our relationship, but my love for Joseph never waned, and I happily nodded yes when he proposed. After marrying, I started living with Joseph and his parents in their house. However, as soon as we started living together, I began to be treated horribly by Joseph and my in-laws. First off, I discovered that Joseph held male chauvinistic views. I had felt demeaned by him even when we were dating, which often led to arguments, but living together, he stopped hiding his true nature. Hey, have you finished the chores? What are you lazing around for? It's a wife's job to take care of her husband and his family. Get to it. He'd often yell at me. Although he had chauvinistic views, he seemed to care about his family, treating his mother, Rachel, and his older sister, Harper, equally. The in-laws, too, looked at me coldly. Especially Rachel's bullying was severe. She's a housewife, but ever since I moved in, I've never seen her do any housework. She seemed opposed to our marriage from the start and constantly made snide remarks at me. Initially, it was just about the chores, but then she started complaining about my job too. You know, if you have time to work outside, why don't you do some housework? You should quit that hobby-like job that doesn't even bring in a decent income. Led by Rachel, the in-laws always said I should spend more time on housework than working outside. But I do my share of the chores diligently. I suspect Rachel knows this and just looks for excuses to criticize me. Really, what's so fun about being a piano teacher? It was clear from her attitude that she disliked even my job. I've been working as a piano teacher at a music school since graduating from university. The school is managed by someone else, and I'm an employee there. I've loved playing the piano since I was young and went to a music college. I once aspired to be a pianist but realized early on that I lacked the talent, so I took my current job on the recommendation of a college professor. I love the atmosphere at the piano school and have built good relationships with students and their families. I enjoy teaching piano to children and feel more relaxed at work than at home. While we were dating, Joseph admired and supported my job, but that admiration is nowhere to be seen now. Despite the constant pressure from my in-laws and Joseph to quit, I dream of opening my piano school in the future and have no plans to become a housewife. Harper, too, seems to dislike my presence, always looking at me with disdain. Why would someone like you marry Joseph? You should just divorce him. But then we'd lose someone to do the chores, which would be troublesome. That's a typical taunt from Harper. She works at a company and, using her busy schedule as an excuse, does no housework. Now that I'm living with them, she has even started dumping all her laundry and room cleaning on me. John, my father-in-law, rarely complains directly, but he seems to enjoy watching Rachel and Harper bully me. Because of this toxic environment, I don't feel like I belong in this house and am seriously considering divorcing Joseph. Then, one day, Harper's wedding was announced. I wasn't surprised to hear that Harper might be getting married soon, as I'd been hearing about it daily, but I was taken aback that her fiancé was wealthy and they planned to have the wedding abroad. The location was South Korea. So, it was decided that we, as a family, would travel to Korea. Korea, huh? I've never been there. This should be exciting. Rachel was thrilled. Joseph and John were also excited about the trip to Korea, and Harper seemed proud. However, I wasn't too keen on the idea. I had never traveled with the in-laws before, but I could already imagine how they would treat me. Still, there was one thing about this ceremony I was looking forward to. So, I tried not to think too much about the in-laws or Joseph and decided to attend the wedding with a positive attitude. On the day of departure, I was unsurprisingly made the in-laws' baggage handler. On the plane, while the in-laws and Joseph chatted happily, I was left out, feeling uncomfortable all the way to Korea. We had taken a night flight, so it was just before noon when we landed. The fresh air of a new place lifted my spirits as I stepped off the plane, but right after collecting our luggage, Harper hit me with something I never saw coming. Thanks for handling the luggage. I didn't set a place for you at the wedding, so this is goodbye. I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing at first. Harper was laughing triumphantly, and the in-laws and Joseph were looking at me with disdainful smiles. What do you mean? I managed to ask, flustered. Why would I invite someone like you to the ceremony? I didn't even book a hotel for you. Harper then said. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. Joseph and the in-laws started laughing. As I bit my lip in frustration, Harper continued. You wouldn't fit in at a fancy hotel anyway. Sleep on the streets if you don't like it. Or just go back. She said this with a dismissive laugh, and I started to tear up, remembering all the awful treatment I'd received from them. How could such injustice be allowed? Neither the in-laws nor Joseph defended me, just laughed as if they wanted me to leave quickly. I felt utterly alone. Reaching my limit, I made a decision and told the in-laws. All right, I'll go back. Then in-laws and Joseph burst into loud laughter, echoing through the airport. Oh, good riddance. It feels refreshing without the dead weight, Rachel said. Yeah, you better go back and do some chores. John joined in. Joseph mocked. Get going. And of course, you're paying for your own return flight. After that, they took their luggage and left me at the airport. Fuming, I watched their retreating figures. Luckily, I found a flight back to America with available seats for today and quickly made the arrangements to return home. After getting back, I went to get divorce papers and spent my time tidying up and doing chores while on leave from work. I decided to relax alone while the in-laws were away. The in-laws' house, which I usually dreaded returning to, felt comfortable in their absence. A few days later, Joseph and the in-laws returned home. As soon as they opened the door. Hey Ava, what the hell have you done? Joseph yelled. I, playing with my mobile phone in the living room, just shrugged secretly. Their loud footsteps approached, and Joseph, the in-laws, and Harper appeared, all furious. "Welcome back. What's wrong? Did something happen?" I put down my phone and asked innocently. Then Rachel came at me. "Don't play dumb! You took our passports back home with you. What were you thinking?" Yelling. But I just smiled. "When you told me to go back, you didn't ask for your passports. I thought you didn't need them." And said, actually, I had been tasked with keeping their passports safe when we were heading to Korea. I had kept them in my bag along with other valuables, and it seemed they had completely forgotten about it. "You did that on purpose, didn't you? Do you have any idea how much trouble we went through because of that?" Joseph turned red with anger and yelled at me. It was the day before returning home that he realized he didn't have his passport, and he had to rush to the embassy to get a travel document issued for his return. Then Joseph and the in-laws started talking about the terrible time they had after I returned home. This was 3 hours after they left me at the airport. Before the wedding began, Joseph and his group headed to the hotel in South Korea where they were planning to stay, only to realize at the front desk that none of them had any money. Joseph had intended to make me pay, so he didn't bring any cash, and his credit card was maxed out at that point, so they couldn't pay for the upscale hotel. They tried borrowing money from the in-laws, but they too had assumed their son or daughter would cover their travel expenses and had no cash on hand. Panicking, Harper, who had arrived at the hotel earlier, decided to rely on her fiancé and his family. Descending to the front desk, Harper deeply apologized to her fiancé and his dad. "Please, Thomas, there's been a little mix-up, and my family's in trouble. Could you lend us some money?" Thomas, Harper's fiancé, cast a puzzled look at the apologizing Harper and Joseph's group. An uneasy tension began to brew between the in-laws and Thomas's family, and before Harper could explain, Thomas spoke up. However, what Thomas said was completely unexpected. "I've been wondering, why isn't Ava here?" "Ava? Who's Ava?" Harper and the others were confused. Thomas continued, "Ava is Layla's piano teacher. She's your sister-in-law, right, Harper?" She replied she would attend the ceremony, so why isn't she here? He said. He approached Harper. Layla is Thomas's 6-year-old daughter. As it turns out, Thomas has a history of divorce and a daughter, and she is one of my piano students. Layla started attending piano lessons this year, and I'm currently teaching her twice a week. So, I already knew Thomas. Harper, Joseph, and the in-laws, learning this fact for the first time, were shocked and at a loss for words. "So it's like that? I didn't know. Well, she fell ill suddenly and couldn't come." Harper stammered an excuse, but Thomas and his dad looked at her suspiciously. At that time, Layla was waiting in the hotel room with Thomas's mom. Thomas, doubting Harper's words. "That's strange. I didn't get any message about that. I'm quite close with Ava. She would have informed me if she couldn't make it," muttered. Then Harper, starting to panic. "She must have been too sick to contact anyone. But please, Thomas, my family can't stay at the hotel without your help. Could you lend us some money?" Changed the subject. Joseph and the in-laws also desperately pleaded with Thomas. After consulting with his dad, Thomas said, "You're hiding something about Ava. Tell me the truth and I'll lend your family the money." So, Harper and Joseph reluctantly began to explain. Thomas and his dad were obviously upset upon hearing the full story, but it was too late to cancel the wedding. With 3 cash-strapped people, the only solution was for Joseph and the in-laws to use their wedding gifts to cover the travel expenses. However, even though the wedding went on, the atmosphere remained tense, and Joseph's group had a very uncomfortable time in South Korea. "Why did you keep quiet about Thomas and his daughter?" Harper, trembling with anger, confronted me. "How could you embarrass us like this? This happened because you hid the fact that you knew Thomas and his family. Shouting in a high-pitched voice, Harper accused me. It was a surprise planned by Layla. This time, Layla was scheduled to play the piano at the reception, and I had been asked by Thomas and his family to teach her the piece she would play. That's how I first found out that Harper's fiancé was Thomas. However, if I told Harper that I knew Thomas, it might spoil the surprise. So, I kept it a secret from Harper and Joseph. Upon hearing this, Harper began to tremble and lashed out at me. "Don't joke with me. What if your actions cause a divorce? I was looked down upon by his family throughout the ceremony. Then, if he mentions divorce, I'll never forgive you. This is my chance to marry into wealth," she screamed further. "Did you marry Thomas for his money?" I asked calmly. Emotionally charged, Harper started spilling her own schemes even though I hadn't asked. She had always desired to marry a wealthy man but never found the right match. Attending parties, she couldn't find a good match due to her high standards. So, Harper began targeting men who were rich but had a history of divorce or children. She started dating Thomas and managed to marry him. Knowing her true nature, I guessed she must have hidden it well from Thomas. If I ask for a little money, he immediately gives it to me. Where else can you find such a good man? Or should I say, a good wallet? I wouldn't have chosen a man with a history of divorce otherwise," Harper said defiantly. It was clear she loved Thomas's money, not Thomas himself. Anger boiled inside me, but I managed to ask, "What about Layla? Thomas said she's very fond of you. She practiced piano hard to surprise you at the wedding. Don't you have any affection for her?" Harper scoffed. "Of course not. It's easier to live with them if the child likes me. But let me be clear, I never intended to become a mother to that child." Harper revealed her contempt for Thomas and his family, showing no interest in Layla. Despite Layla's effort to surprise Harper with her piano practice, Harper mocked her. I reached my limit of anger, shook off Harper's hand, and showed her my mobile phone. "What? What is this?" Ignoring Harper's puzzled look, I spoke into the mobile phone. "Thomas, did you hear that? Your wife doesn't love you or Layla at all." Harper's face turned pale. "What? You can't be serious." Actually, my mobile phone was on a call and in speaker mode. The call was with Thomas, who had been listening to the entire conversation. "Wait, since when?" "Since you all returned home," I replied. Harper was speechless, and Joseph and the in-laws were also flustered. "Thank you, Ava. That's enough." Thomas's voice came from the phone. "Thomas, it's not what it seems. Harper, sweating profusely, started to make excuses. But Thomas sighed deeply and replied in disappointment. "That's enough. I know you were only after my wallet and have no love for Layla. I'm disillusioned. I can't live with you anymore." And then Thomas demanded a divorce. "I'll make sure to tell my parents about this incident. You don't need to come back to this house anymore. Neither you nor your parents should ever involve themselves with us again," Thomas said firmly, then thanked me and ended the call. I shrugged my shoulders and put the mobile phone in my pocket. Looking at Harper, she muttered in disbelief, "My money," and collapsed on the floor. Prioritizing money even in such a time, I was beyond words. Turning away from a dejected Harper, I glared at Joseph. "I'm divorcing you too. I've already got the divorce papers, and I've signed them. I've packed my things while you were away and plan to leave immediately. I'm not going to continue being a servant for you." Reacting first to my words was Rachel. "Wait a minute. Who's going to do the housework if you leave? I won't allow a divorce just because it suits you." "That's right. What are you defying me for? You should just do as I say. That's what a wife is supposed to do." Rachel and then Joseph raised their voices, unleashing the frustrations I'd been holding back. I took a deep breath and shouted, "All you ever think about is yourselves. I'm telling you I won't be used by you anymore. Just share the housework or something." Being a wife doesn't mean being a slave. Seeing me raise my voice like this for the first time, Joseph and the in-laws looked shocked. They must have never dreamed that the obedient me would rebel. Ignoring the stunned in-laws, I thrust the divorce papers at Joseph and left the house that day. My divorce from Joseph was finalized around the same time as Harper's. The in-laws, who had boasted about their daughter marrying a wealthy man, were now facing scorn and discomfort from neighbors after the quick divorce. Joseph, after our divorce, hurried to find a new wife, but kept being rejected at parties due to his male chauvinism. Meanwhile, I focused on my piano teaching, gaining popularity, and finally opening my own studio. I'm living a fulfilling life teaching piano to children, currently renting a space, but hoping to buy a house and open a studio there in the future. I also keep in touch with Thomas and Layla. Thomas, disillusioned by women after this incident, has no plans to remarry and is committed to raising Layla with his parents' help. Layla is attending my piano classes and is working hard. As for me, I'm not thinking about remarriage. I plan to cherish my relationships with those around me and live a fulfilling life.